installing a 200 amp residential electrical service, understanding the proper sizing of the grounding electrode conductor is crucial for safety and code compliance. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, provides specific guidelines to ensure effective grounding. Table 250.66 within the NEC outlines the requirements for grounding electrode conductor size based on the size of the service entrance conductors. According to Table 250.66, for a 200 amp service using copper conductors, a #4 copper wire is typically required as the grounding electrode conductor. This table correlates the size of the service entrance conductors to the minimum acceptable size of the grounding electrode conductor. However, there's an exception to this general rule found in Section 250.66 of the NEC. Section 250.66 states that the grounding electrode conductor is not required to be larger than #6 copper when connected to a ground rod, ground plate, or a ground grid. This exception is specifically applicable when the grounding electrode system consists of these types of electrodes. In your specific situation, where the grounding electrode is a water pipe, the general rule from Table 250.66 would apply initially. However, since the question specifies no copper water pipe, we can assume the grounding electrode system includes a ground rod or similar electrode. Therefore, Section 250.66 becomes relevant. Given that Section 250.66 allows for a smaller conductor size in these cases, a #6 copper wire can indeed be used as the grounding electrode conductor for your 200 amp service. It's important to note that this exception applies specifically when using ground rods, ground plates, or ground grids as the grounding electrode system. If the grounding electrode system included a metallic water pipe as the sole or primary electrode, the requirements of Table 250.66 would take precedence, and a larger conductor might be necessary depending on the size of the service entrance conductors. The NEC aims to provide a balance between safety and practicality. By allowing a smaller grounding electrode conductor in certain situations, the code recognizes that ground rods and similar electrodes have a limited ability to dissipate fault current compared to a large metallic water piping system. However, they still provide a necessary path to ground for safety. It is always recommended to consult the latest edition of the NEC and local amendments, as these codes are updated regularly. Also, consulting with a licensed electrical inspector can help ensure compliance with all applicable regulations. The grounding electrode conductor connects the service equipment to the grounding electrode, which in turn provides a path for fault current to return to the source. This path is crucial for the operation of overcurrent protective devices, such as circuit breakers and fuses. When a fault occurs, such as a short circuit, the fault current flows through the grounding electrode conductor, the grounding electrode, and back to the source. This high current causes the overcurrent protective device to trip, disconnecting the circuit and preventing electrical shock or fire hazards. The grounding electrode system typically consists of one or more grounded electrodes, such as ground rods, ground plates, or metallic water pipes. The grounding electrode conductor connects the service equipment to these electrodes, creating a low impedance path to ground. The size of the grounding electrode conductor is determined by the size of the service entrance conductors, as specified in NEC Table 250.66. The larger the service entrance conductors, the larger the grounding electrode conductor must be. This is because larger service entrance conductors can carry more fault current, and the grounding electrode conductor must be able to safely carry this current back to the source. Section 250.66 provides an exception to this general rule, allowing for a smaller grounding electrode conductor when certain types of grounding electrodes are used. This exception is based on the fact that ground rods and ground plates have a limited ability to dissipate fault current, and a larger grounding electrode conductor would not necessarily improve their performance. However, it is important to note that this exception only applies when the grounding electrode system consists of ground rods, ground plates, or ground grids. If the grounding electrode system includes a metallic water pipe, the requirements of Table 250.66 must be followed. In summary, when installing a 200 amp residential electrical service, You can use a #6 copper wire as the grounding electrode conductor if the grounding electrode system consists of ground rods, ground plates, or ground grids. If the grounding electrode system includes a metallic water pipe, you must follow the requirements of Table 250.66. Always consult the latest edition of the NEC and local amendments, and consult with a licensed electrical inspector to ensure compliance with all applicable regulations. Grounding and bonding are essential for electrical safety. Grounding provides a path for fault current to return to the source, while bonding connects all metallic parts of the electrical system to create a low impedance path for fault current. Together, grounding and bonding help to ensure that overcurrent protective devices operate properly, protecting people and property from electrical hazards. Understanding the specific requirements for grounding electrode conductor size is essential for all electrical installers and homeowners. By following the guidelines in the NEC, you can help to ensure the safety and reliability of your electrical system. The NEC is updated every 3 years, so it is important to stay up to date with the latest changes. The NEC is a comprehensive document that covers all aspects of electrical installation, from wiring methods to overcurrent protection. It is an essential resource for anyone who works with electricity. Electrical codes and standards are constantly evolving to address new technologies and safety concerns. Staying informed about these changes is critical for ensuring that electrical systems are installed and maintained safely and effectively. The grounding system is one of the most important safety features of an electrical system. A properly installed and maintained grounding system can help to prevent electrical shock, fire, and equipment damage. The grounding electrode conductor is a critical component of the grounding system. It provides a low impedance path for fault current to return to the source, allowing overcurrent protective devices to operate properly. Choosing the correct size of grounding electrode conductor is essential for ensuring the effectiveness of the grounding system. Using a grounding electrode conductor that is too small can result in a higher impedance path, which can impede the flow of fault current and increase the risk of electrical shock or fire. Always follow the requirements of the NEC and local amendments when selecting the size of the grounding electrode conductor. Consult with a licensed electrical inspector if you have any questions or concerns. Remember that electrical work can be dangerous, and it is important to take all necessary safety precautions. Always disconnect the power before working on any electrical equipment, and use appropriate personal protective equipment such as gloves and safety glasses. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, hire a qualified electrician to do the work for you. Electrical safety is everyone's responsibility. By following safe electrical practices and staying informed about electrical codes and standards, you can help to protect yourself, your family, and your community from electrical hazards. The information provided here is for educational purposes only and should not be considered a substitute for professional electrical advice. Always consult with a qualified electrician before performing any electrical work. Ensuring a safe and compliant electrical installation requires attention to detail and a thorough understanding of the applicable codes and standards. From selecting the correct wiring methods to properly sizing overcurrent protection, every aspect of the installation must be carefully considered. The grounding system is just one piece of the puzzle, but it is a critical piece that must be properly designed and installed. By following the guidelines in the NEC and local amendments, you can help to ensure that your electrical system is safe, reliable, and compliant with all applicable regulations. The grounding electrode conductor connects the electrical system to the earth, providing a path for fault current to dissipate. This path is essential for protecting people and equipment from electrical shock and damage. The size of the grounding electrode conductor is determined by the size of the service entrance conductors, as specified in NEC Table 250.66. However, Section 250.66 provides an exception to this rule, allowing for a smaller grounding electrode conductor when certain types of grounding electrodes are used. This exception is based on the fact that ground rods and ground plates have a limited ability to dissipate fault current, and a larger grounding electrode conductor would not necessarily improve their performance. It is important to note that this exception only applies when the grounding electrode system consists of ground rods, ground plates, or ground grids. If the grounding electrode system includes a metallic water pipe, the requirements of Table 250.66 must be followed. The purpose of grounding is to provide a low impedance path for fault current to return to the source. This path allows overcurrent protective devices to quickly trip and clear the fault, preventing electrical shock and fire hazards. The grounding system also helps to stabilize the voltage of the electrical system, reducing the risk of voltage fluctuations and equipment damage. A properly installed and maintained grounding system is essential for electrical safety. Always follow the requirements of the NEC and local amendments when installing and maintaining the grounding system. Consult with a licensed electrical inspector if you have any questions or concerns. Electrical work can be dangerous, and it is important to take all necessary safety precautions. Always disconnect the power before working on any electrical equipment, and use appropriate personal protective equipment such as gloves and safety glasses. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, hire a qualified electrician to do the work for you. Remember that electrical safety is everyone's responsibility. By following safe electrical practices and staying informed about electrical codes and standards, you can help to protect yourself, your family, and your community from electrical hazards. Grounding electrode conductors are a crucial part of a safe electrical system. They provide a direct path for fault currents to the earth, which helps protect people from electrical shock and minimizes the risk of fire. Selecting the right size grounding electrode conductor is crucial. Too small, and it might not handle the fault current effectively. Too large, and it's an unnecessary expense. Factors like the size of your service entrance conductors and the type of grounding electrode you're using all play a role in determining the appropriate size. The NEC provides specific guidelines in Table 250.66, which correlates service entrance conductor size with the minimum acceptable grounding electrode conductor size. However, there are exceptions to this general rule. Section 250.66 acknowledges that certain grounding electrodes, such as ground rods or plates, don't necessarily benefit from extremely large grounding electrode conductors. In these cases, a smaller conductor, like a #6 copper wire, might be sufficient even for 200 amp service. Understanding these nuances is key to ensuring both safety and cost-effectiveness in your electrical installations. Always consult the latest NEC guidelines and local amendments to ensure compliance with all regulations. When in doubt, seeking guidance from a qualified electrician is always a wise decision. They can assess your specific situation and recommend the most appropriate grounding electrode conductor size for your needs. Remember that a properly grounded electrical system is essential for the safety of your home and family. Don't compromise on safety when it comes to electrical work.